Hi, Dr. Herrera here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to reverse fatty liver disease with diet and exercise based on the latest research on this topic. I'm going to break down in very simple terms what fatty liver disease is, what causes it, and more importantly, how to reverse it. Fatty liver disease can often lead to more serious illnesses such as liver cirrhosis, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, etc. So if you've been recently diagnosed with fatty liver disease or know someone who has, then you definitely want to watch this video. And stick around to the very end of the video where I will show you how to download a free PDF guide that will outline all of the information that I'll be discussing in this video for your easy reference, and so that you can begin applying this information today. So now let's talk about what is fatty liver disease. Now, the very first thing that you need to understand about this condition is that there are two types. There is an alcoholic fatty liver disease, and then there's a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, for the sake of this video, we are going to be focusing on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease because it is by far the most common type. It affects roughly 100 million Americans and almost 1 billion people worldwide. So in a nutshell, fatty liver disease refers to the liver organ that we have in our bodies that has begun to store tons and tons and tons of fat within its cells. And if you see my little caveman drawing here, you'll see the drawing of the liver organ, and inside of it, represented by little green circles, you will see all the different fat deposits inside of it. So why is this a problem? Well, if we zoom in into an individual liver cell that I've drawn here in this little diagram, you'll see that a healthy liver cell is a nice square shape, has the nucleus in the middle, has a little tiny fat deposit here represented in green, and a couple of other organelles such as the mitochondria, etc., and different parts of the cell that it needs to be working properly in order to function. Now, in a fatty liver, if you can see here to this other picture, the individual cells have been filled with fat. If you notice the little fat deposit, it is expanded and has swelled up to encompass and to take up a lot of the room inside the cell. Now, this is a big problem because, as you can see here, as the little fat deposit expands, it's going to push the different parts of the cell, such as the nucleus, the mitochondria, and everything else, to the very outer edges of the cell membrane, which will then eventually cause damage to the cell itself. Now, one way to look at it, if you could imagine yourself in a bus, right? A tightly packed bus with a ton of people in it, right? And it's just, and you can barely move in this bus. There's people surrounding you in every direction. And as you're in this tightly packed bus, more and more people start to enter the bus, right? And keep filling it and keep filling it and keep filling it. Now, at some point, you're going to feel really crushed, not gonna be able to breathe, not gonna be able to move. And as people come in, you're eventually gonna get crushed and you will die. A similar thing happens to your liver cells. As fat uncontrollably starts to fill the liver cells, and as the fat deposits keep expanding and expanding, it'll increase the rate of inflammation in those cells, and it can eventually lead to cell death. Your liver cells will start to die. Now, this is a really big problem because as your liver cells start to die, they will be replaced with scar tissue in a condition known as fibrosis, as I drew here in my other caveman drawing. And this is a really big problem because as your liver cells die and they begin to be replaced by scar tissue, it'll start to build up and build up and build up within the liver organ itself, and eventually you'll have a less functional liver that is made mostly of scar tissue instead of healthy liver cells. And as this condition gets worse and worse, and as you get more and more scar tissue build up, it can lead to a very serious condition called liver cirrhosis, which basically means that most of your liver is now scar tissue, and very much often that leads to death. So what do we need to do in order to start reversing a fatty liver? Now, pay really close attention. The very first thing that you have to do is smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure you subscribe to our channel and support me in creating more awesome content like this and to help us grow so we can reach a wider audience. All right, so all kidding aside, hopefully you're still watching this video after that shameless plug. Pug or plug? Shameless plug. The research clearly shows that the easiest and fastest and most effective way to reverse a fatty liver is by eating healthier, exercising regularly, and losing weight. And although genetics play a really important factor of whether or not you get a fatty liver, the research clearly shows that factors like the environment that you're in, how much fat you have, especially visceral fat around your waist, whether or not you're insulin resistant, and your diet is what really determines whether or not you actually get a non-alcoholic fatty liver. And weight loss is particularly important because losing weight shows to have the most dramatic effect when it comes to lowering the fat in your liver. In fact, in this study over here, it showed that just losing 5 to 10% of your total body weight had a significant reduction in liver fat and its associated markers. So let's talk about food first. Now, it's really easy to get complicated with food and nutrition, especially when you're trying to figure out what to eat, what not to eat, whether you should be keto or paleo or Mediterranean, or whether you should eat dirt in a cup for 30 days to detox yourself. I don't know. So to keep things as simple as possible, I'm just going to list some very simple, direct tips and strategies that are based on actual research and my personal clinical experience with my patients so that you can get started right away. So let's start with foods that you absolutely should not be eating if you have a fatty liver. Now, number one, if you have a fatty liver, stop consuming refined sugars and refined carbohydrates, period. End of discussion. We should all know by now that over-consuming and overeating refined carbs and refined sugars in any form, whether that be white bread, pasta, rice, soda, whatever it is, but when you do eat that, you're gonna promote insulin resistance, inflammation throughout your body. You're going to gain weight, especially if you're not exercising. Many studies have shown that lowering your intake of high glycemic and sugary foods will decrease the amount of liver in your fat, the amount of fat in your liver, your insulin resistance will improve, and so much more. If you read this study, it shows that if you just reduced your refined sugar intake to just 3% of your total daily calories for 8 weeks, that has shown to reduce hepatic steatosis, which is just another fancy way of saying a fatty liver, significantly. But 3% is not a lot of calories anyways, so you just might as well get rid of it. Now, the second thing to avoid eating when you have a fatty liver is fructose. Now, fructose is a type of sugar that is found in many processed foods, including, I almost said sugar, soda, breads, cereals, candies, pastries, fruit juices. It's everywhere, especially high fructose corn syrup, which you should be familiar with at this point. If you see high fructose corn syrup on your label or fructose at all, avoid that product or that food like the plague. And why? Because fructose has to be metabolized into the liver first before it's allowed to circulate to the rest of the body, because the rest of the body cells can't use fructose as energy. So any fructose that you digest will immediately just go straight into your liver and be converted into fat. Now, the other thing about fructose is that it will inhibit a very important molecule called AMPK that's found in your liver that helps regulate how much fat storage you have or are going through. And with fructose, it'll completely inhibit AMPK, which means that your liver will start to just accumulating more and more fat without stopping. Now, the third thing that you should not be eating is high amounts of saturated fat. Let's not forget that the reason you have fatty liver is because you literally have fat in your liver. In fact, in this study, they took 3 different groups of people. The first one, they fed saturated fat. The second one, simple sugars. And the third one, unsaturated fat at 1,000 calories every day for 3 weeks. And the group that ate saturated fat had a 55% increase in liver fat, compared to the simple sugar group that had a 33% increase in liver fat. So make sure that you reduce the amount of saturated fat you eat to about 10% or less of your total daily calories. But now let's talk about what you should be eating. Number 1, start eating astaxanthin-rich foods such as nutritional yeast, salmon, shrimp, etc. Now, astaxanthin is a very powerful antioxidant that is shown to be 100 to 500 times more effective than vitamin E in protecting your liver cell membranes from being destroyed when you have a fatty liver. The other thing that it does, it also prevents the activation of what are called stellate cells, which are responsible for turning your liver cells into scar tissue. The second type of food that you absolutely should be eating is cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and the like. Why? Because they have a compound called indole, which is really important for protecting the membranes of your liver cells from inflammation. It also helps support the detoxification process that your liver goes through in order to stay healthy. Now, the third thing that you should be eating is monounsaturated fats. Monounsaturated fats are found in things like avocado oil, olive oil in nuts such as hazelnuts, almonds, pecans, etc. And there are many studies such as this one that show that consuming monounsaturated fats improves things like insulin resistance, it helps you lose weight, and helps reduce bad cholesterol in your blood, and much more. So what about exercise? Is exercise important, or is it even necessary? Absolutely yes. In fact, there's a ton of research that clearly shows that combining the right diet with exercise routine is the most effective way to reduce a fatty liver. And in this particular meta-analysis, where they analyzed several randomized controlled trials, which is the gold standard for research, specifically showed that a combination of resistance training and aerobic exercise are what actually improved liver enzyme levels in these studies and liver function overall. And just so you know, in this study, improvements in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease was seen in patients who just exercised once a week. Now, for many people, losing weight can be a very daunting task, but remember, you only need to lose between 5 to 10% of your total body weight in order to see significant improvements in your fatty liver disease. And 5 to 10% is very doable. So before we finish up today, let's recap. Now, although your genetics can predispose you and make it easier for you to develop a non-alcoholic fatty liver, it is your environment, your lifestyle, and your diet that ultimately dictates whether that disease will actually manifest itself. Again, according to research, if you just lose 10% of your total body weight, you will see significant improvements in your fatty liver disease. Stop eating all refined sugars, simple carbohydrates, and especially fructose in all of its forms. Do this for a period of 8 weeks to see maximum results. Reduce your daily amount of saturated fats that you're eating to about 10% of your total daily calorie limit. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, that's roughly 200 calories of saturated fat that you're allowed to eat, which translates to about 3 to 4 eggs. And make sure that you replace all saturated fats with monounsaturated fats, such as avocado oil, olive oil, etc. And make sure to avoid all fried foods. Eat more cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, etc. And don't forget astaxanthin-rich foods like nutritional yeast, salmon, shrimp, and others. And finally, make sure to include some kind of resistance training or aerobic exercise, and make sure you exercise at least once a week, but ideally you want to go for 3 times a week. So that is it for my video today. As a special thank you and as a bonus for getting this far, I have put together a special PDF guide that outlines all the information in this video in an easy to read format so that you can apply these strategies today. Now, to download the guide, all you have to do is click the link in the description box below, enter the best email address to send the guide to, and you will receive it instantly in your inbox. And don't forget to like and subscribe my channel, as I will be uploading more informative videos like this on a regular basis. And if there's any specific medical topics that you would like me to cover in future videos, or if you have any questions regarding the information in this video, make sure to type it into the comments section below. Thank you all again. My name is Dr. Herrera, and I will talk to you next time.